So John Collins has been linked to the Miami Heat recently, and I think this would be a pretty good trade for the Miami Heat. They get another good power forward. I mean, besides Bam Adebayo, he would play pretty well alongside him. I mean, Bam, he's been pretty underrated as a big man who can pass. And John Collins, I mean, he's a guy that can shoot the ball. He's pretty athletic, someone that can score at will, basically. So I think, with a good trade like this, it improves the Miami Heat roster, and with them being 7-11 over the season, they need some more help. So I think this move, essentially, they move two pieces who we are going to be talking about in exchange for John Collins. So today we're going to talk about a Miami Heat trade for John Collins, what it's going to look like, and what, why each side would basically do it. So what's up? My name is JDC. If you like what you see, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate it. And let's just get right into it. So I'm looking at the standings overall for the Miami Heat. They are 7-11, and they are good for the 12 seed in the East, which is obviously not great. They are outside of the play-in tournament. They are lower than the Chicago Bulls. I mean, the only teams that are above are Charlotte, Pistons, and the Magic. I mean, those are pretty much bottom teams. So the Miami Heat, they need to go out. They need to get another star, and I think John Collins should be that guy. So we'll get into the trade right now. So the trade would look like the Heat trading Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, and a 2023 first-round pick from Miami in exchange for John Collins. So we'll get into both sides of things here first, but we'll get into John Collins first and foremost. I mean, we'll pull up his stats here really quick. Over the season, I mean, whenever I watch Hawks games, I don't really see John Collins too much. I mean, we're obviously watching the game for Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, Clint Capella, but John Collins, I mean, over the season, 13 points, 8 rebounds, and 1 assist. I mean, those are pretty low stats, and with good reason. I mean, he's playing in a pretty loaded front court with Capella and Okongwu basically being those guys on the front court. And comparing his stats to last season, I mean, he's down a whole 4 points per game. I mean, he's averaging the same amount of rebounds. Looking at it, he's averaging the same amount of assists, averaging a block a game. And looking at his shooting splits, I mean, 50% from the field, which is a career low, and around 27% from three, which is also a career low. So bring him into the Miami Heat, who they have Kyle Lowry, they have Jimmy Butler, they have Bam Adebayo. I mean, all three of these guys are pretty good passers. And with John Collins, I mean, we'll get into the Heat side of things first. I think trading for John Collins, they're gonna get basically a great floor spacer in John Collins. I mean, at his size, if we look at his height, he is 6'9", 226 pounds. He can play the power forward position. If you really want to get, risky with it, you could probably play him at the small ball 5. That's just getting a little bit too risky there. But nonetheless, I mean, John Collins, he gives him some great floor spacing, some great athleticism. And realistically, he just fills out the 4, which, the Miami Heat desperately needed. Their starting 5, I looked at it right now. Kyle Lowry, Max Strus, or Nikola Jovic, I think, and then Max Strus, Caleb Martin, and then Bam Adebayo, which is a pretty weak starting 5. I think Jimmy is injured right now, so once Jimmy comes back, I mean, if they trade for John Collins, the starting lineup could probably look like Kyle Lowry, Max Strus, Jimmy Butler, John Collins, and Bam Adebayo. The thing about John Collins is that I'm not really too worried about his defensive liability. Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler should be pretty, they should be easily covering his weaknesses on defense, and I think they could hide John Collins pretty easily. The thing about Collins is that I don't know how well he's gonna do in the Miami Heat starting 5. I mean, we'll probably see whenever they do trade for him, or if they do trade for him, but regardless, if they use him more as a spot-up shooter, I don't really know about that, because I think you can work him in the post a little bit, kind of have him, go into the post, make some ISO plays for him. He can be on ball sometimes, but majority of the time, you're probably going to want him shooting threes or, being in the post, which, kind of makes sense. But regardless, I think John Collins probably should be that 4 for the Miami Heat, because looking at some other 4s in the league, I mean, you're not going to get too many guys unlike John Collins for basically a cheap price, because looking at it right now, I think the Atlanta Hawks are going to be selling pretty low on this guy. So we'll get into the Hawks side of things right now. So first and foremost, I mean, they do get rid of John Collins. He's been linked to trade rumors even back before last season. I mean, even before that season, he's been linked to some trade rumors, and the Hawks just never got rid of him. So now with the front court of Clint Capella and Onyeka Kongwu essentially. I mean, he basically has no room to really just do anything. I mean, they still have DeAndre Hunter too. They still got Bogdanovich, so he doesn't really fit into what they're doing. And especially, with Clint Capella and Kongwu having some good promise, it kind of makes sense that the Hawks would essentially just trade him. And although, they're getting Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, and a first round pick, I mean, obviously it's a downgrade in terms of talent wise, but in exchange, you are getting a first round pick, and you do get Duncan Robinson and Caleb Martin, two guys that can fill out some roster spots. Obviously, Duncan Robinson, he's getting overpaid. I think he's like getting paid like 19 million or something. He's getting overpaid a lot to be basically a guy sitting on the bench. But regardless, you can either decide to flip him or kind of just keep him on the team as kind of like a six-man shooter. Caleb Martin, I mean, I think he has a lot of promise as a forward, especially at the power forward position. You could even run him alongside Clint Capella if you want to, and you do get a 2023 first round pick. I mean, I think the Hawks did trade some first round picks in exchange for DeJounte Murray essentially. So they do get another first round pick. They can either draft a guy with that, or they can flip it for another piece they can possibly use. So the starting five for the Atlanta Hawks would probably be Trae Young, DeJounte Murray. I would say Bogdanovich at the 3 if he's not injured, Caleb Martin at the 4, or Onyeka Kongwu at the 4, whichever one, and then Clint Capella at the 5, and then have Duncan Robinson off the bench. So even like DeAndre Hunter is on the team too. I just realized that. So they could probably run Hunter at the 3 or the 4, and then probably have Caleb Martin off the bench. We'll see. I don't know. They can do a lot of things with this roster. The thing about trading for Duncan Robinson and Caleb Martin, like I said, is that they just fill out a lot of roster spots. And, if things don't turn out well, they can probably either flip him or buy out Duncan Robinson with how much money he's making. So you guys can let me know what you guys think about this trade. I mean, I think the Heat, they got a pretty good player in John Collins. They get a good steal with the Hawks. I mean, they do get a first round pick. Now, Collins, I don't think right now has too much trade value with what he's averaging and what he's doing, but regardless, they could get, I wouldn't say they get a better package than this, because realistically, this is probably one of the better packages you're going to get, because I don't think any team, especially like a rebuilding team or any team that's going to be contending, is going to be giving you more than a first round pick in exchange for a guy that's averaging around 13 points and 8 rebounds. So you guys can let me know what you guys think about this John Collins trade. That's pretty much it. That's all I got for the John Collins trade, and I'm out. Peace.